close match. Neither player would be surprised to see it go to 5 games, and either player thinks that they can win. So, you know, we do have a one-sided affair with Prozac versus Miriam, where Miriam feels like he's going to have to get very lucky. That's not the case here. Both players are expecting a lot of back and forth, and so we are going to be on our way. Quarterfinals here of the Star City Games Invitational. It's time to crown a new champion. We appreciate you guys joining us. Turn 1 Island for Phillip, and let's do it.
Plus, it is Gerry Thompson, and we are legally obligated to have him on camera in any top 8.
Both players did keep their 7-card hand. You see Phillip does not have a turn 1 ponder, does not have a turn 1 preordain. So if you're Gerry and you see no turn 1 play after an island, you got to be thinking he's probably got a pretty strong hand over there that does have maybe a show and tell on turn 2, maybe some backup.
Or he could have just he could have a brainstorm as well.
That's true.
So, but Gerry does have a Thoughtseize, so we're going to see here whether or not we'll see what Phillip actually kept.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. There are a number of hands he can keep without a 1-drop. He could just have the combo straight up. He could have a brainstorm. Looks like we're going to see whether or not he has a brainstorm, and it does appear like he has a brainstorm. But we're going to get a misdirection instead, and there's that misdirection. We were talking about it before the match. Could be very huge in this matchup because Gerry has a lot of cards where it's very frustrating for him to deal with.
And you see that the misdirection does happen, and Gerry, because it's his Thoughtseize, it is misdirected, but it's Gerry's Thoughtseize, so he actually chooses what card to discard.
Yeah, and Phillip's fine with that. He just doesn't want to get Thoughtseized himself.
Yeah, and he wants the information, too, to see if he can go for it.
Yeah.
So you see a Shardless Agent, you see a Deathrite Shaman, a Tropical Island, a Polluted Delta, and a Wasteland. Gerry ends up taking 2. He has to discard his own card. Abrupt Decay, not good in this matchup anyway, and passes the turn back. So maybe Phillip kept this hand off the back of maybe a misdirection as he does draw a Ponder for the turn, and that's where he's going to start this turn.
So it looks like he has a Force of Will in his hand. He does have an Emrakul and I believe a Show and Tell, but no mana currently.
Well, he just
found some
in the form of Polluted Delta, Volcanic Island, and a Sneak Attack. So he's going to keep with this Ponder. He draws that Polluted Delta. He's going to pass the turn back, of course, drawing the Delta to play around the Wasteland in Gerry's hand. So now he's currently Wasteland-proofed. As you see a hand of Brainstorm, Force of Will, Show and Tell, and Emrakul. So a very good hand for Phillip as Gerry draws a Tarmogoyf.
So Phillip is threatening just casting a turn 3 Show and Tell with Force of Will backup right now. Gerry doesn't have. We have perfect information. If Gerry actually, it'd be interesting to see if Gerry actually just tried to Wasteland the Polluted Delta just to shuffle the deck a little bit.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. A little too next level, I think, of a play. So Phillip, no reason to crack because he wants to draw that 3rd land. He also wants to Brainstorm to pitch to Force of Will. So.
No reason to make any movements. He's going to sacrifice that Polluted Delta, shuffle away that Sneak Attack that's on the top of his deck. He's going to search out a land. We'll see if he's going to search for a basic or a non-basic here, just for information in the next games.
Yeah, and we know that Gerry doesn't have Liliana Veil in his main deck, so he doesn't actually have a main deck answer to an Emrakul, which isn't a big deal because most decks don't. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah. You know, maybe Gerry, it wouldn't surprise me if Gerry thought that he was a bit of a dog, as you are going to see a Show and Tell, maybe a bit of a dog in game 1, as Gerry is going to put that Deathrite Shaman down. Phil's going to put that Emrakul down. Surprise! My card is better than your card. And he does pass the turn back. Now, Gerry can't top deck a Jace right now. Let's see what he draws. He draws a Tarmogoyf. As the Deathrite Shaman would accelerate his mana, Gerry plays that land, and he Jaces and bounces that.
Yep.
But he did not hit his 3-outer here. So we'll see what Gerry's going to do this turn as Emrakul is at the ready to eat everything, including Gerry's life total and this game 1.
Let's see if Gerry's trying to maybe just generate enough permanence to survive an attack.
You're going to see him cast a Shardless Agent here. So Cascade is going to take place. That is an Abrupt Decay.
And
that is a concession. So Phillip Lorren up a game with Sneak and Show. Kept a 1-lander with a hand based around misdirection. And, you know, speaking with Gerry, he knew this card was going to play a huge role. Speaking with you, you knew this card was going to play a huge role. So he does have 3 of them, and you see it play a huge role in that game.
Yep, he had a pretty, you know, I don't think a 1-land hand is not unreasonable given his draw. Yeah. I think he kind of realizes how powerful misdirection can be. He also had a Brainstorm. He had most of the combo set up. He just didn't have the lands.
Yeah, he had Force of Will, he had Brainstorm, he had Misdirection, Intuition, Show and Tell, Emrakul, and I believe a land.
Yep.
So, you know, he can Brainstorm to find lands. He has Misdirection and Force of Will protection against a Hymnotor or a Thoughtseize. And, again, this is a deck that does have, how many double lands is he playing? 3? Yeah, he's playing 5. So, you know, peels a double land.
That's turn 2 kill.
Yeah, it's turn 2 kills. So that's a perfectly reasonable keep, and you see him up a game here as we see the sideboards on the screen. And again, let's go over, we'll go over Lorren's first because this is a little bit more straightforward. You see the 4 Ley Lines of Sanctity to be able to brick those Thoughtseizes and brick those, those Hymn to Thorax. You see, you know, the Grafdigger's Cage is not for this matchup. Echoing Truth, not so much. Pyroblast, Through the Breach, Wipe Away. You know, you see some unique cards, some cards that may potentially come in as you see Phillip Lorren boarding out a bunch of cards right now. Maybe he shuffled into 15, he's pulling 15 out. But Ley Line of Sanctity is assuredly coming in.
Well, the thing about Ley Line of Sanctity is a lot of players might just have that in their sideboard to deal with combo decks like Storm or Charbelcher. Maybe that's the reason they have it in their sideboard. Maybe not so much against bug decks. Although, again, with the amount of hand disruption Gerry's playing, I think it's reasonable that you kind of want Ley Line. You don't want Misdirection. Force of Will actually not that amazing in this matchup. You don't want to give up card advantage, and you basically have Misdirection, which is sort of, you're going to be pitching a lot of cards anyway, so maybe shave a little numbers on the Force of Wills here. Spell Pierce, not incredible in this matchup as well, but I think it's going to be interesting whether or not Phillip wants to bring in Ley Line and maybe Through the Breach, because maybe he's afraid of casting a Show and Tell and getting a Soul Temptation from Gerry coming into play. That's going to win Gerry the game. Yeah. So it's even though there's only 2 copies of Soul Temptation, it's one of those cards where if Gerry does have it, Phillip could just lose the game right there sometimes. So I think Through the Breach might be coming in, just because it's not that bad against discard either, because Gerry's going to bring in Thoughtseizes, so if he Thoughtseizes a Sneak Attack, if he Thoughtseizes a Show and Tell, Through the Breach is just it's more redundancy in your deck in terms of getting your threats into play.
Yeah. And then you're not so reliant on Show and Tell. You can have that Sneak Attack, you can have that Through the Breach and not get blown out by Solar Temptation. As you see 2 of those in Gerry's sideboard, you do see that additional Thoughtseize, those additional 2 Thoughtseizes, you see that additional Hymn to Thorax, a Maelstrom Pulse, 2 Liliana of the Veil, 2 Baleful Strix, 3 Nile Spellbomb. Speaking with Gerry a little bit earlier, he said that, you know, he's got 2 Strixes main and 2 in his sideboard, and he said he wants to board into all 4 because 1, it makes it so the Grizzlebrand can attack, or Emrakul. 2, it makes it so that he can have more permanents to make an Emrakul attack with the Annihilator 6 not be such a beating. Yeah. And he said he was pretty happy with that. You know, backward strategy it seems counterintuitive, but you kind of want to go up the board against an Emrakul, and then, you know, if you have 7 permanents, you got a Baleful Strix standing tall, ready to trade with an Emrakul, and, you know, it's a weird way to say it's a good trade, but if you don't lose the game, it's a good trade.
No, it's definitely not the worst thing, because Phillip is not exactly all in, but he doesn't have card advantage, so he is going to be expending a lot of resources to just get that guy into play, and especially when Gerry is casting all this hand disruption. So I don't think it's an unreasonable strategy, especially considering that Gerry has cards like Abrupt Decay, which are terrible in this matchup. Gerry also has cards like Ancestral Visions and Hymn to Thorax, which we said we're not exactly sure whether or not he wants them against a deck with Misdirection. So if he's thinking about boarding out 11 cards, completely reasonable for him to want to bring in Baleful Strix.
Yeah, and so that's the big question here that's underlying in this matchup is Gerry going to leave in Hymn to Thorax? Is he going to leave an Ancestral Vision to maybe cascade into or suspend on turn 1? Is he going to board in those additional Thoughtseizes? Because, again, there is Misdirection, which we did see Lorren win Game 1 with. There is the threat of Ley Line of Sanctity breaking off a lot of those cards. It's very, very scary to have the potential to have that many cards be dead draws.
Yeah, I actually like Ley Line and Through the Breach coming in for Force of Will and Spell Pierce in this matchup. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not that actually happens.
As we are getting some updates in here from our coverage team, we have, as obviously you guys know, Phillip Lorren's up a game. Ben Lundquist is up a game against Brian Braunduan. He felt that being on the play was a big deal for him. He was on the play Game 1. He won Game 1. He thinks he's going to win the games that he's on the play. As we do see a Ley Line of Sanctity here from Phillip Lorren, but the important result to be known right now, Ross Merriam up 2-1 over Adam Prozac. Combo Elves trying to steal.
Wow.
As Prozac he has his back against the wall, has to win both the 4th and 5th game to move on, as you see Gerry play a Misty Rainforest, sacrifice an Underground Sea, and go with a Deathrite Shaman.
So pretty good start for Phillip. He got the Ley Line to play. He also looks like he has the Sneak Attack, not the Show and Tell, which is obviously something he wants to have after board for fear of Solar Temptation. It looks like he has enough mana to actually cast it on turn 2. He has an Island, an Ancient Tomb, and 2 Lotus Petals here.
Yeah, so he's going to start off with a Ponder here. Let's see what these 3 cards are going to be. See if we can get a good look. And one of them is an Ancient Tomb. You see a Sneak Attack. And the other one, he's going quick. I can't really quite make out what that one is. But as you said, multiple Lotus Petals, an Emrakul in his hand, a Sneak Attack in his hand already. He's going to take that hand. He's going to consult what's going on here when he wants to try to set up, because You know, if you make that move with those Lotus Petals into that sneak attack, and he gets Force of Willed, he's set back so far.
Yeah.
And he is going to shuffle away with his Ponder, so not happy with those top 3 cards.
Yeah, you don't need a second sneak attack because you have Leyline in play, so it's not getting Thought Seized. Leyline's doing a lot of good work here because it basically is a security blanket for Phillip. He knows he can't get Thought Seized. He knows he can't get him. So why not just shuffle those cards away, try to draw a Force of Will or a Misdirection, rather.
And you see he does draw a Pyroblast off of that, so we'll see how that changes things as he looks like he is just going to pass the turn back. Is he going to play one of his Petals? Is he going to sandbag those? Looks like he's going to sandbag them as Gerry is going to play a Brainstorm in his main phase, get some more information as you do see him run into a Thoughtseize here off of that Brainstorm.
Yeah, it looks like he does have the Baleful Strix, so he definitely kept at least the 2 that he had in. He has 2 Tarmogoyfs, another Brainstorm, a Thoughtseize, which is likely getting shipped away, and a couple of Sacklands.
So if you're Gerry here, you take a look at his deck list. He does have access to 3 main deck Force of Wills, none in his sideboard, probably looking for one of those to get a little bit of protection as he's going to sacrifice that Verdant Catacombs. He is going to search out a land here. No Wastelands to fear, of course, from the Sneak and Show deck, so he's going to search out a Bayou. Deathrite Shaman can't activate, so he can, you know, play a Tarmogoyf or a Baleful Strix this turn. We'll see which avenue he wants to take, get the pressure on the board, or maybe do a little bit of cantripping and try to dig to one of those Force of Wills to protect himself.
Yeah, I think, you know, either avenue's fine. Maybe he wants to dig for a Jace or a counter spell here. Not fearing that Phillip's going to go off that quickly. Again, after sideboard, I think Phillip might be a little more hesitant to go out as quickly as he normally would. Doesn't feel a lot of pressure because of the ley line in play. So, but it looks like he might be going for it. Yeah, if he's gonna drop both Lotus Petals, he's just
now
gonna
he's going to play the Ancient Tombs. Now he's going to cast. You know, he's going to remove this for a red. He's going to tap these lands. He's going to play a sneak attack. So here's that, and he does have the Lotus Petal available to be able to cast a red Elemental Blast. As you do see sneak attack resolve, you're going to see him activate that. You're going to see Emrakul come into play. Gerry shrugs his shoulders and says, yeah, I can't do anything about that. Annihilator triggers. They're going to clear up Gerry's entire board. It's going to knock him down to 3 after the damage does resolve. 3's not dead. You're going to see the Emrakul trigger shuffle everything back in, and now Lorren is sitting here with a sneak attack in play with 3 lands. But one thing to keep in mind here, Osip, no red mana.
Well, he does. I believe he has a Scalding Tarn in his hand.
Okay.
So he has house, so he can get a mountain to make sure he can't get Wasteland. But Gerry's definitely not out of it yet. He has a Maelstrom Pulse in his deck. Well, he has it in his main deck. He has another one in the sideboard. Not sure whether or not he brought it in. Possibly, again, because he said he doesn't like certain cards in his matchups. Maybe he's just boarding in 15 and swapping out 15. But I think that he's got a Brainstorm. He's got some action. He's got a little gas. He can put some pressure on Phillip. And Phillip's going to be under a lot of pressure now to draw that another threat, because between Tarmogoyf and Deathrite Shaman, things can get out of hand really quickly.
And so now you see Gerry draws a Sower of Temptation. You see a hand of Tarmogoyf, Brainstorm, and a Baleful Strix.
Yep.
You're going to see Deathrite Shaman activate here for likely a land. He's going to play a Tarmogoyf, and he's going to do what he just did the last time, which is get something on the board, get some pressure going as Phil draws an island here. He's not drawing any of his cantrips, and he needs to draw a way to finish this game off. Interestingly enough, for Phil, it's pretty important for him to actually draw Emrakul, because Baleful Strix can brick off the Griselbrand.
Yep.
So now we see Gerry trying to come back from being, hit by Emrakul and being off permanentless.
Well, the Griselbrand will draw Phillip cards,
That's true.
so he can
That's
try to.
true.
But yeah, Gerry, Gerry's going to be trying to draw cards here. Just trying to grind it out. He basically has Phillip on a 3-turn clock, I believe.
As we see Gerry, he's going to cast a Baleful Strix here, and you see Phillip with that Pyroblast thinking, am I gonna counter this Baleful Strix? How much does this card actually matter? I
actually like the counter here.
I don't hate it.
But it does give Gerry an artifact in his graveyard, which pumps up. So. It's going to be tricky. I don't know. Maybe you just let it resolve. Maybe you don't want to let him get it. Either way, it's an extra point of power.
Yeah.
Currently, Tarmogoyf is a 3 power. I think you probably just counter it.
Do you bump it up to 4? That's the question. You can see him really thinking about this right now, too.
Yeah.
I think that he's given away at this point that he does have a Pyroblast. I think Gerry knows that now. And the question is he going to use it or not? And you see he is going to sacrifice that Scalding Tarn. He is going to search out likely to be a basic mountain as he's going quickly through his deck. does go by those volcanic islands, so there's the basic mountain. Make sure he can't be wastelanded, and we are going to see a Pyroblast take care of this.
Maybe he was talking to his girlfriend as he was looking through his deck. Just, hey, buddy, you want to show up anytime?
That would be great if you don't mind.
Wouldn't mind it.
So Tarmogoyf moves up, and they're going to see him attack here for 4.
And Phillip has, I believe, with the Deathrite Shaman, Phillip is probably on a 3-turn clock here. Ooh, wow.
Leyline of Sanctity. This is something that can happen with Leyline by boarding it in. As great as it is on the first turn, it is much worse afterward as Phil flashes him a smile and passes the turn back. Gerry draws a fetch land. He's at 2. He gets 1 more of these. But if he does sack this fetch land, Force of Will's off. And it's funny because you would think that Force of Will doesn't matter very much right now, Osip, but I think Force of Willing a card like a Ponder or a Brainstorm, you do that immediately if you have a Force of Will.
Oh, yeah, he has to.
Yeah, you can't do it fast enough.
He knows what's in Phillip's hand. Question is, does Gerry just brainstorm here first? Yeah, definitely is going to brainstorm, try to dig for a little more cards, see what other options he has available to him.
Charlotte's Agent, a fetch land, and a wasteland are the card draws for him, so he's going to have to manipulate this brainstorm correctly. Maybe he sets up a Charlotte's Agent, maybe he doesn't. One thing to also keep in mind as well here with that Verdant Catacombs in his hand, he can't shuffle away, clear the brainstorm. Alternatively, he can remove that Baleful Strix that's in the graveyard or that Tarmogoyf, gain 2 life, and be able to actually, sack some lands, play some Forceful, stuff like that. So he's not going to be at 1 forever.
Yeah. But I think he's going to, he definitely wants to sack to drain Phillip to increase the clock, I think.
Yeah. As Phillip is going to draw a card, he draws a Lotus Petal, and he does just pass the turn back. Gerry's going to go down to 1. Likely going to see a bio here, you think? Maybe to drain this time?
Yeah.
Or then maybe have the ability, to gain. If he does have another bio in his deck, looking at his deck list, he does have 2. 1 in the graveyard from that Emrakul.
So can Gerry dodge yet for 1 more turn? Looks like Phillip just needs to brick 1 more turn for Gerry Thompson to be able to pull off this game. Amazingly, turn 2 sneak attack, activate Emrakul.
So what we see here is we see the Deathrite Shaman is going to put Phillip down to 7. Tarmogoyf being a 4/5, the attack puts him down to 3. The Deathrite Shaman activation moving instant puts him down to 1. So let's see what Gerry draws here. Gerry draws another Deathrite Shaman. Will he brainstorm to begin the turn?
I like brainstorm because I think you really want a Strix here because it's a way to block Grizzlebrand and kill it. And Phillip is low enough where he can't even actually activate the Grizzlebrand now. So Phillip's only outs, I believe, are going to be those 4 copies of Emrakul.
Yeah, Grizzlebrand right now, strange to say that Grizzlebrand's not good enough, but if it is a Baleful Strix that Gerry does fine, he plays the Baleful Strix, Grizzlebrand gets sneak attacked in, Gerry's able to block it, Phil would gain his 7 life, but that wouldn't be enough, but it would give him another draw step.
It'll give him another draw step, but the good thing is Phillip's low enough where he can't activate a sneak attack, put a Grizzlebrand into play, draw 7 cards, and then try to find an Emrakul.
And so now we see a cascade here by Gerry. Charlotte's Agent is what he casts. He cascades into a Baleful Strix, and now this changes absolutely everything because now Baleful Strix is going to come in. That's going to cantrip. Take a look at the number of permanents that Gerry has in play. 7. So if it's Emrakul.
Well, no, Emrakul will likely, because we can bring up Emrakul for a second here. I'm pretty sure Emrakul has trampled.
It does not.
No, it doesn't?
It does not.
Okay.
That is the one thing that Emrakul doesn't have.
In that case,
as Phil is going to draw a card. You would think Emrakul has trampled, but it doesn't as he draws a Grizzlebrand. Wow. And he finally draws the threat. Gerry cascades perfectly into a Baleful Strix. And as you're going to see momentarily here, it is not going to be enough. It took him too long with sneak attack to find another threat to be able to win the game with.
So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, even with the gain 7, double activation for Deathrite Shaman should be able to do it.
And so now you see Phillip Lorren thinking to himself, is this Grizzlebrand good enough as he is going to activate sneak attack here? Do I play this defensively? But he's going to activate this. You're going to see him put a Grizzlebrand into play. It has lifelink. It can draw 7 cards. It has flying. Baleful Strix also has flying and Death Touch. Block. You get 7 life. You get to go to 10. That's fine.
So, I'm sorry. Leyline of Sanctity prevents the Deathrite Shaman from activating, targeting him. So he still has 1 extra turn.
Bring Deathrite Shaman up on the screen.
His target player loses life, right?
No, yeah,
each opponent.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Gerry 4, 5, 6. With Phillip at 4, will he be able to deal? So Phillip is at 4 life. It looks like we're gonna get 1 activation. And then a second
activation,
so
a concession,
there it
yeah.
is. Okay.
Yeah, this card does not target. Yeah. So we are going to see Gerry turn to Emrakul. Oh, my board's gone? No big. No big deal.
I wonder whether or not Phillip regrets.
Regrets what exactly?
Regrets going turn 2 Emrakul.
Yeah, huge regret. Leaving my opponent permanentless, myself with a bunch of outs and a red source. Yeah, I've got a feeling that he doesn't, for some reason.
So, unfortunate there. I think
We've seen
Brainstorm, Ponder, Intuition, any of the 8 fatties in his deck.
We've seen that happen with Sneak and Show before. If it's not Crystal Brand those opening turns, yes, you can leave your opponent permanentless. Yes, you can leave them at a low life total. And yes, you can brick on multiple draw steps. He does board in cards, like a Leyline of Sanctity. He does have dead draws like those Lance and Lotus Petals, where he can just miss for multiple turns. And Gerry had a hand that could let him reestablish a board. And we saw him do that. A very unexpected result. I can certainly agree with you. And we have another unexpected result.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
Say it ain't so.
Oh, it's so. You Northeasterners out there, you Ross Merriam fans, he's going to the semis.
Wow.
Beats Adam Prozac 3-1.
Adam wins the first game and then loses the next 3.
We didn't cover that match.
I'm assuming that must be.
We didn't cover that match because we thought it was going to be pretty one-sided, as did Ross, as did Adam, and he gets eliminated from this tournament by Combo Elves.
Well, in our defense, it was fairly one-sided, just the wrong side.
So Ross Merriam fans, rejoice. Congratulations to him. He's going to be playing the semifinals. He's going to be playing against the winner of Hetrick and Cerrone. One of what is potentially multiple unexpected results. Glenn covered that match. He did the write-up for you. It will be edited and put up for you guys just as soon as it is done, and I am dying to read that or asking either player when I'm out of the booth on my break, what the hell happened here? How did this happen?
It could just be, turn 2 Gaddock Teague, and Adam just didn't have an answer for it, and it gave Ross enough time to just set up the rest of his combo.
I mean, we saw Prozac play against Caleb Durward in the combos matchup, and Caleb, that was the most one-sided match of the matches we've covered.
Yeah, it was a blowout. Same matchup, Ant versus Elves, and it was a completely one-sided affair.
Yeah.
So no reason to expect it to be any different. But again, in the top 8, anything can happen. You have the sideboard strategy. Ross had all night to look over the deck list and figure out a plan post-board, so, it happens.
Unbelievable.
And we were talking about before the top 8, we were saying combo is really well positioned for this top 8. All the other 6 players are probably really hoping that Ross Merriam and Adam Prozac end up playing against each other and not being in opposite brackets, and that's exactly what happened. And Ross has to be pretty happy with his chances going forward because either player, I think, is pretty well positioned.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't think either player was is scared about the other decks that are on top of it. Either one is just kind of think, I just want to get through. Maybe I do want to play against the Stoneforge Mystic deck. I think Combo Elves is pretty good against that deck, as is Storm. So Merriam, again, is going to be playing against the winner of Hetrick Cerrone. Both players are playing Stoneblade decks, and, a shocking result in my opinion. I'm blown away that Merriam wins the match. Wins the match, yes. Winning the match when he's on the draw and almost certainly down a game, I'm absolutely shocked.
Yeah, especially after, I covered that matchup yesterday with Prozac versus Cal Durward, and it was just such a blowout.
Yeah.
Adam completely demolished him. I believe he won on turn 2 both times. There was really nothing Caleb could do.
No.
You expect the same result, but again, I don't remember exactly what was in Caleb's deck list, but maybe it all just came down to a timely mind break trap. Sometimes that's enough.
Yeah.
He does have 4 copies of Cabal Therapy, so if you draw the right sideboard cards, it doesn't really matter. If you draw Cabal Therapy, mind break trap, Gaddock Teague, a way to search for Gaddock Teague,
Yeah, it's crazy to even think that he was able to win that match. But again, congratulations to Merriam. As we're talking about sideboard cards here, you see Lorren start with a Leyline of Sanctity. He's going to be able to defend himself yet again, and now he's going to sacrifice a Scalding Tarn, and he's going to get this game underway as he's going to check his hand. You see a Ponder. You see another Copuleus of Sanctity. a City of Traders, among other cards in there. There's also, a Flying Spaghetti Monster in his hand as well. Not good enough last game.
Not quite good enough.
We'll see if it's going to be good enough this game, as he's going to start this game off with a basic and a ponder, get himself set up a little bit.
Yeah, and again, pretty good start from Phillip. He's got the ley line. He also has a 2-mana land and a ponder, which is huge because it allows him to keep making his mana drops and search for the second part of his combo.
So now here's a ponder, a little bit of manipulation here. You see a show and tell, a City of Traders, and an island, just like he drew it up.
Likely puts the island in top. Well, he could draw the show and tell, I suppose, because the ley line is in play. No reason to hide it anymore.
No reason to defend him. I mean, nothing to fear as far as discard is concerned. The only thing he needs to fear now is a reactive spell from Gerry, which could be a Spell Pierce, which could be a Force of Will, some sort of counter magic. As you see, Phillip, trying to figure out, how do I want to sequence this? I'm safe against counter magic, or excuse me, I'm safe against discard. I'm not safe against counter magic. I have no way to defend myself. Also, he has no way to, fetch away past this ponder, so he's going to draw those cards. That's also a big deal. So if he doesn't think he's going to be able to go for it, well, next turn.
This is the position that Phillip's in here. He can go turn to show and tell. If he goes turn 2 show and tell, he's vulnerable to counter magic because he really has no other gas. And like you said, he's stuck with those 2 cards that have his library. However, if he doesn't go for it, he gives Gerry more time to be able to make his land drops and then follow up a show and tell with a Liliana, with a Jace, with a Sower Implication. So again, I think Phillip is probably just more afraid of the counter spells, because if you're not afraid of the counter spells, you definitely just go for it there.
Well, it's this tricky situation, right? As you see, Gerry does draw a Jace the Mind Sculptor, where yes, he can go for the turn 2 show and tell. What if Gerry just has Sower in his hand? Okay, you lose.
Yeah, again, that's tough, but what are you going to do? I think you have to take a chance there, because the more time you give Gerry, the more favorable it is for him. He has just too many annoying cards for you.
I completely agree with you. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. If you go for it and you're wrong, you lose. If you wait and you're wrong, you lose. That's where things favor Gerry post sideboard.
Yeah, I think the problem with Phillip's plan was, if you say, okay, I'm not going to go for the show and tell plan, you're basically committing yourself to the sneak attack plan, which is fine. But Gerry has cards like Sower of Temptation, like Jace the Mind Sculptor, which Liliana. So I think Jace is. I think whatchamacallit, sneak attack plan is fine. But again, if you're afraid of permission, it's the same thing. You're just giving him more time to draw the permission he needs.
All right, so we are going to see Gerry again get a clock established. We've seen him do this multiple times, as we do see a Force of Will to draw here for Phillip. He wants to get a Deathrite Shaman. He wants to be accelerating. He wants to get Tarmogoyf on the table and start pressuring his opponent. You see a Maelstrom Pulse. You see a Thoughtseize in his hand. You see a Force of Will along with a blue card in Jace the Mind Sculptor, so he can protect himself, as he is going to draw another Jace the Mind Sculptor here. So he can play a turn 3 Jace here, because Phillip Lorren does have that fetch land in his graveyard.
Yeah, and it's great too, because he still has another Jace to pitch to the Force, so pretty well positioned right here.
But now he's going to take the opportunity to Maelstrom Pulse this Leyline of Sanctity. And what we did see in the opening turn to this game is that Phillip Lorren had multiple Leylines in his hand that he could have put into play, and he chose not to. Maelstrom Pulse is going to destroy them both, of course.
Yep.
Is it realistic for him to actually hardcast one? Does he even want to hardcast one? As we're going to see Tarmogoyf come across here. You look at the count on Tarmogoyf, it is a 3/4 sorcery, enchantment, and land. So it's going to deal 3, and now maybe we see post-combat Gerry activate this so he can Thoughtseize Phillip. And that's what you do see.
And Gerry did have the Force, I believe, in his opener, so had Phillip gone for the show and tell plan, it wouldn't have worked anyway. But again, I think it's a tough decision you have to make there, because by passing up on that show and tell, you're basically committing yourself to either through the reach or a sneak attack plan, which might be just too slow.
Yeah, I mean, it gives Gerry a lot of time to set up, where show and tell doesn't allow that, as we do see here 2 Leyline of the Voids, a Force of Will, an Emrakul, a Lotus Petal, and a City of Traders. Gerry working with perfect information now as he looks at his hand. Osip, if you're in this situation, what do you take with the Thoughtseize?
I think I take the Emrakul. I actually am fine with just taking an Emrakul. It makes it so that you don't have to worry about show and tell sneak attack. Obviously, you have a Force of Will, but there's no other blue cards in Phillip's hand, and if he does draw a blue card, it's either going to be a Ponder or a Brainstorm, which obviously he's probably going to cast. He's not going to hold it to pitch, or it could be a show and tell, which he's probably going to cast anyway. So I think I like taking the Emrakul there. You want to take one of the fatties because, again, the combo is fatty plus sneak attack show and tell. So if he has one of those, take the combo piece.
All right, so you do see Gerry take that Emrakul. Phillip going to shuffle that in. Graveyards are going to get eliminated for Phillip. So now just sorceries in the graveyard for Tarmogoyf. Now it's just going to go down. It's going to shrink down to a 1/2.
Yeah, because that Scalding Tart is removed.
That is correct from the Deathrite Shaman. Very quickly, as you do see Phillip draw a Forcible for his turn, Benjamin Lundquist up 2-1 against Brian Baranduan. What that means is what Lundquist thought was going to happen. He's won the odd games. He's won game 1 and he's won game 3, the games that he were on the play. We see Shaheen Sarani and Michael Hetrick 1-1 there. The winner of that match does again play against Ross Merriam, not Adam Prozac, playing combo elves. As you're going to see Thompson cast a Thoughtseize here, targeting Phillip Lorren. He's going to realize that Phil drew another Force of Will. Now what do you take?
Now I take the Force of Will.
Okay.
Because, you know, again, you don't really care about the ley lines. You might take the ley line just to pump your Tarmogoyf, but you don't care about it anymore.
Any merit to a Lotus Petal? No red mana for him.
No, I still like taking the Forcible here just because eventually Gerry's going to want to play a Jace, and Gerry doesn't have a huge clock in play, so if Phillip just goes runner, show and tell Emrakul,
okay,
and he has 2 forces to force back with Gerry, then suddenly it's not really a good position. So I think Gerry probably wants to just take the Forcible.
All right. Well, Gerry agrees with you yet again. Graveyard gets a little bit bigger. Here comes Tarmogoyf. We see an instant and a sorcerer, so that thing's going to be a 2/3. Let's see what Gerry's follow-up is going to be, if he has one at all. He's just going to pass the turn back. Phil Lorren draws a Volcanic Island for the turn. Will he play that in maybe the face of Wasteland? Any fear of that? You see Acidia Traders that he's been holding on to.
I like playing the Volcanic Island here just because it allows you to play City Traders next turn and be able to actually hard cast Forcible if you want to.
Now he's going to play Cydia Traders. He's going to play Lotus Petal and pass the turn back, so he can't cast Forcible right now this way. So maybe reverse order, but it turns it on this turn.
Either way, it turns on his Forcible, yeah.
So now we're going to see Deathrite Shaman remove that Maelstrom Pulse. Gerry's going to untap and draw. He draws another Tarmogoyf to go along with those 2 Jace the Mind Sculptors and the Forcible in his hand. Tarmogoyf's going to add to the clock here. Deathrite Shaman also going to be ticking away at Phillip's life total. And you see now Phillip is thinking to himself, do I hardcast this Forcible?
Yeah. And I think Phillip's really just hoping for a Brainstorm or a Ponder here. Ideally a Brainstorm. Spell Pierce, wow. So,
a card you thought he might sideboard out.
Yeah. There's really no value to it here. You know, it's one of those cards where, yeah, sure, it'll help you force through your card, but I don't think you really need that against Gerry's deck. Gerry only has 3 copies of Forcible that you have to worry about.
And so now we have Thompson draw a Misty Rainforest here. You saw a Deathrite Shaman activation. Lorren does go down to 7, and with a land here, that's going to pump those Tarmogoyfs up to a 3/4. We'll see if Gerry does realize it. As Tarmogoyf will become a 3/4, we'll have a sorcery, an instant, and a land in the graveyard now. As he does sacrifice the Misty Rainforest, Tarmogoyf's going to go up to 3/4. That's going to be an attack for 6. Deathrite Shaman should finish things off here. And I think we're going to move on to a 4th game in just a moment.
Yeah, Phillip doesn't have any answer to these creatures, so land, sorcery, instant, attack for 6, activate Deathrite Shaman.
That's what it looks like it's going to be, as we do have a quick correction in results for you guys, as Gerry's going to finish resolving this Misty Rainforest. Apparently, Hetrick and Sarani had gone through a crazy game 1, so we thought they were actually in game 2, but no, game 1 just took about 45-50 minutes, so it's actually Michael Hetrick who is up 1-0. It is not tied 1-1, so Ricky Sider, take a deep breath. You're okay. Your buddy is just up 1 game.
And we kind of expected that. We thought Hetrick had the advantage in this matchup, particularly in game 1. I think the extra Jace the Mind Sculptor and having more threats with Mishra's Factories, it's kind of huge there. But
now, this is a little bit surprising. You see Gerry cast a Jace the Mind Sculptor this turn. Now, I'd like to assume... Okay, well, okay, I got it. So you're going to see an attack here, as those are 3/4 because of the land. So maybe Gerry didn't realize. Yeah, I don't think that Gerry actually realized that those Tarmogoyfs were 3/4. You saw him play Jace the Mind Sculptor. You saw him Fate Seal Phillip, and he was thinking that the attack wasn't going to be lethal. I think he didn't realize that his Tarmogoyfs got a little bigger, and you saw Phillip move the Tarmogoyf die and say, "No, man, those are 3/4. I'm dead." Now, ironically enough, by Gerry looking at the top card, maybe he gets a little bit more information on how he sideboards. So that's kind of funny, as we do see Thompson move up here 2-1 over Lorren.
So, yeah, things, you know, it was going to be a pretty kind of a 50-50 matchup. Phillip got a little unlucky in game 2 to lose that game.
Yep.
But definitely not out of it. He'll be on the play this game. Question whether or not he should have gone for it that turn. Again, Gerry had the Force of Will, so it wouldn't have ended up mattering. But
it's so very tough, Osip, to just go for it with Chantal in turn 2. You open yourself up to counter magic. You open yourself up to getting blown up by Silver Temptation. But are you able to beat Silver Temptation if they have it in their hand anyway? It's really strange, the dynamics in this matchup.
You open yourself up to 3 copies of Force of Will and 2 copies of Silver Temptation. However, if you don't go for it there, what is your other plan? To just blindly draw a card? You just shuffle your deck and just blindly draw and hope to draw, a sneak attack? You don't even have another red source right there. So you don't even have a red source of mana. So I'm not sure what his plan was. That was my only issue. I can understand if his plan was, I don't think Show and Tell is going to resolve, and then I don't want to just blank on the next 2 turns. But it's very difficult to sort of just give up the turn 2 play when there's only 5 cards that you're really afraid of out of Gerry's deck. So I don't know. I think it's risky, and even Force of Will isn't a guarantee because sometimes Gerry doesn't have enough blue cards in his deck to pitch, in his hand to pitch. His hand could be land, Force of Will, Tarmogoyf, another Deathrite Shaman, maybe a Liliana. I don't know. I think that I might have just gone for it there, but it'll be interesting.
So we do see both players kind of going back to the drawing board here. Osip, would you change anything with the sideboarding for either player?
Yeah, it looks like there's really not much else I think it's worth changing here. I don't like, I like Leyline of Sanctity. I really just, I don't love Force of Will. It looks like Phillip kept his Force of Wills. I don't love Pyroblast either because it doesn't look like this in this matchup it really matters that much. Obviously, Phillip is very concerned with the counter magic. He's probably more concerned with the counter magic than I would be necessarily.
Don't forget that Pyroblast can kill Solar Temptation.
That's true,
it's
but
kind of minuscule.
Yeah,
but hey, you never know.
No, that's valid. Might be better than Through the Breach. I don't know. I think I'd want at least 1 or 2 copies of Through the Breach though in my main deck as just more redundancy. You need more ways to actually get those fatties into play, and it also doesn't care about a card like Solar Temptation. So
we have Tom Martell with us, who's been updating our matches because he's not in the booth right now. So Tom actually is with us in the booth. You guys can't see him. He was updating our matches. He told us that Ross won, and he saw the surprised look on Osip and I's face. And Hetrick and Cerrone had that marathon game 1. I know you were there watching it.
Yep.
What happened?
So it was an hour long, roughly.
Okay.
Stoneblade Mirror, which is obviously a lot of fun. I actually enjoyed it, but I think everyone else wanted to pull their hair out. We actually saw Shaheen get decked after ultimating his own Jace on Hetrick, but Hetrick had more cards in hand than Shaheen had left in his library. As Hetrick saw this coming and just started playing Draw Go. Both players were at one point over 40 life because Batter Skulls were swinging back and forth. Really swingy game. And yeah, so ultimately we saw an actual decking in Legacy.
We saw a Jace Ultimate not win the game.
So Shaheen actually realized, like, oh, this doesn't say win the game. How many cards in your hand? And he actually conceded with 3 cards in his library because he realized that he could not win with the Ultimate.
Wow.
And he was going to get decked first. It was really quite an incredible match.
And that's just game 1?
That is game 1. They're now going to game 2. I would not be surprised if they end up on camera at some point here, given that these other matches could all be over and they could still be in game 2.
I wish I saw the last 5 minutes of that match, not the first 55.
There was an interesting 5-minute sequence in the middle, which was as Shaheen was trying to race to actually kill Hetrick through the Batter Skull. And there was a tactical sequence of plays where there was some back and forth and an exchange, and then he gave up that plan. I think he actually had a chance to kill him. But he decided to go into this Jace plan, and in the end, he decked himself. So, well, I'm sure I'll have time to come back and give you an update on game 2. Maybe in the next couple hours.
Yeah, maybe another hour from now.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. If you find anything else out, definitely let us know. Well, we've seen this weekend. We cut into a match with Travis Wu, where the opponent had a Damirad MO in play. And Travis just flashed in a door nothingness. And I thought seeing him work, and then he just loses because of it.
Well, that's why, Legacy's a crazy animal. We see a lot of crazy things happen at Legacy. We've seen people win off mulligans to 2. We've seen people lose by ultimating Jace. We've seen people lose by getting a turn to Emrakul.
Yeah. Oh, you have no permanence here at 3? I have a sneak attack at a red source and draw steps? I'm good to go. Or I'm not. Or I lose. That's fine. As you're going to see Phillip take a mulligan here, Gerry looks satisfied with his 7 cards right now. You know, with Gerry's deck, I feel like his opening hands, the hands that he can keep, his range is so wide as long as he does just have lands and spells. Because his deck turns into just like this, I don't want to say monster, but this deck of just like a lot of cards that are just really like good, but they're good in like unique ways. So he can just keep like, you know, land, spells, maybe a brainstorm, and all the cards that he has to draw to are actually relevant cards, but they all do it in a different and a unique fashion.
Yeah, after board, his deck is definitely a lot more fluid. So, 3, 4, 5, and 6 cards. Let's see if Phillip is happy with his 6-card hand. On the play, he does have a ley line. And there we go, turn 0 ley line. It looks like he has a Through the Breach as well. Through the Breach, Brainstorm, Lotus Petal. No fatty.
All right.
Turn 1 Wasteland from Gerry. Pretty good, slows down Phillip a little bit.
There's a mountain. So he has 4 mana, no fatty, as you said. Gerry's going to draw a Creeping Tar Pit here. See Force of Will, and Tar Pit's going to come into play. You like the turn 1 Wasteland?
I love the turn 1 Wasteland.
Okay.
Yeah, it prevents the random turn 2 kill with Force of Will backup. Especially if they lead, like leading with an Ancient Tube is so strange. So strange out of a Sneak and Show deck. So you have to assume that they have to be somewhat concerned about their mana. So yeah, I like Wasteland in there.
Okay. We'll see Gerry's going to cast a Brainstorm here. Thoughtseize among the other cards that he does draw, excuse me. So you're going to see him try to set things up here. Again, you see a Tarmogoyf in Gerry's hand, a fetch land, all that good stuff. Wouldn't be surprised again to see Gerry lead off with a turn 2 Tarmogoyf. Just wants to get the ball rolling again early and not give Phillip, especially on a mulligan, time to set things up.
Yeah. Gerry's got a pretty good hand, though. He's got the Sower Temptation and a Force of Will, so he can pick and choose what he wants to do here.
Because now we do see a Through the Breach here drawn for Phillip. Now here is something that's a little bit interesting. We don't see it very often with these Sneak and Show decks. The bluff sneak attack, or excuse me, the bluff show and tell, the bluff Through the Breach.
I like the bluff Through the Breach, although I would try to see if you can actually get some more mana in play first. Like, you definitely have to brainstorm and try to dig a little bit, but I definitely like the bluff Through the Breach next turn.
As we are going to see a Ponder, an Ancient Tomb, and a Force of Will, the cards drawn here for Phillip. It's a very risky play. I have seen this before. The example that jumps to mind for me, Pro Tour Columbus during the Swiss, Neil Reeves playing against
Masashi Oisa?
Yeah, I think it's Masashi. Masashi playing Storm. Can't remember what Neil's playing. I think Psychotog does have counterspells in his deck. Masashi casts Norm's Chant. Reeves takes a moment, looks him up, and just goes, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Masashi goes, all right, your turn.
And the thing is, people are like, oh, what a great read from Neil. It's a great play by Masashi, too.
Yes.
You're two masters playing against each other, both trying to, like, get these edges by these weird plays. It's, you know, it's a tough play to make, but, you know, you have to read your opponent. And a lot of times, people just don't put enough thought into that and how much, you know, they just play their own game. Whereas those two players in particular, those are definitely players that played their opponent more than the game itself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we'll see if we see anything like that in this particular game, because you can certainly make an argument for maybe an end step Through the Breach. Gerry has to pull the trigger on that Force of Will, and then Phillip goes, I don't have anything anyway, so I'm glad we got that part of the game over with.
Well, since he also has a City of Traders, he can also cast a Ponder next turn if he wants to, and try to set it up to make it look like he's dug a little more. I think Gerry has to Force of Will there. But we'll see. I mean, let's see what kind of read Gerry has, and does Phillip go for it? But I really like going for it, especially if you have 2 Through the Breaches.
But he did put a Through the Breach back with that Brainstorm. He's only one in his hand. You see Force of Will, Ponder, Lotus Petal, and he's going to draw a City of Traders. So Through the Breach is the top card of his deck right now, as you are going to see a Ponder here from Lorren. There's the Through the Breach. Here's a Sneak Attack. And here is a Pyroblast. So no Fatty, no Emrakul, no Gristlebrand, as Gerry's again going to try to get the ball rolling here with a Tarmogoyf that is currently a 2/3.
So I think with the Force of Will now, he probably just doesn't care. He's not going to try to bluff it.
So now we'll see what that mystery card is, as we do have a quick result for you guys. Brian Bronduin, Benjamin Lundquist, they're moving on to game 5. Each player has won each game that they've been on the play. Lundquist is going to be on the play here, game number 5, and he felt he could win the match if he did win his games on the play, and he has the opportunity to do that for game 5, as we're going to see Lorren play a Polluted Delta and pass the turn back. Here's a Lotus Petal as well, so he could actually cast that Force of Will.
Yeah, but how?
Looks like he's okay. So he puts that up there. Okay, I thought maybe he was sacrificing it.
You don't want to be casting Force of Will on Gerry's turn. You want to be using
No.
it to force through your combo.
Yeah.
So Phillip's in a pretty awkward spot right here. He really needs to brainstorm so that he can dig for both a blue card and a fatty.
And shuffle the garbage away.
Yeah.
Yep. So we are going to see Gerry sacrifice a land here. We'll see what his next turn is going to be. You see Lorren does have a sneak attack. He does have, again, a Through the Breach. Or excuse me, he has a Through the Breach, no sneak attack. He hid that away with the Ponder Shuffle.
Phillip's still at 20 though, not dead in 2 turns or anything. He's got the Through the Breach, so he doesn't have to worry about the show and the Sower Invitation anymore. Gerry does have a, looks like a Shardless Agent, perhaps.
Yeah, it looks like he has multiple Shardless Agents, a Force of Will, a Brainstorm, a handful of lands. You do see that Creeping Tar Pit in play that can reduce the clock of this game as well. You see him taking his time on this turn, figuring out what he wants to do. Does he want to start this turn off with a Brainstorm, perhaps, and get some more information? Maybe try to set up a Shardless Agent. Not quite sure, but you see, this is the first time in these 4 games that he's really taken a long time on his turn.
Yeah, and he has to consider, you know, with the amount of mana Phillip has now, Through the Breach and Sneak Attack are basically live, so that Sower Temptation might not be as effective.
So now we're going to see a Shardless Agent. Here is your Cascade. We'll see what this is going to hit. It is not going to be the Jace the Mind Sculptor or the Force Will. It is going to be a Tarmogoyf. Is this worth Force of Willing?
No, I don't think you can Force of Will this. If you're the way Phillip's been playing this entire match, he's very afraid of permission. So I don't think he's willing to give up anything. Yeah, the Cascade Agent just cat. Shardless Agent just cat.
You see Gerry, can I take with a Tarmogoyf at least? Do any of these things have haste? But here comes just that non-summoning sick Tarmogoyf. That's going to be a 3/4. And now he does pass the turn back. So Phillip takes a draw step. He draws a Brainstorm. That's the card you said he needed to draw.
He needs to draw a fatty blue card.
So here is a Brainstorm. Let's see what he finds. An Island, a Lotus Petal, and an Ancient Tomb. That is not a fatty or a blue card.
He really needed at least one because he's got the polluted, he's got the polluted out to cycle away some of the chafe. But wow, so he's going to be under a lot of pressure now. We know Gerry has at least a Force of Will, so I'm not so sure how Phillip's going to be able to pull this one out because Gerry's going to be attacking for at least 8 next turn, dropping Phillip to 9. And then Gerry also has the Creeping Tar Pit, which he can finish him off with the following turn. Doesn't need to attack with the Creeping Tar Pit this turn.
Yeah, but next turn.
But next turn it will be lethal if he wants to attack with all 3. He probably knows Phillip probably doesn't have a lot of removal. He does have those Pyroblasts, which is a way to deal with those cards, but I think Gerry might just go for it then.
So now we see Lorren sacrifice that Polluted Delta. Going to get another basic. Make himself, again, Wasteland proof the best he can. Ancient Tombs certainly can bite the dust, but if you're Gerry, you might want him to tap that Ancient Tomb. You might want him to deal himself 2, maybe 4 points of damage. See how that changes the clock, as he is going to play City of Traders and pass the turn back.
And this is, again, you see the situation where Force of Will is just not very good sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially against this deck. It's hard to force through your spells when they're attacking you from so many different angles.
So now we do see Gerry draw a card for the turn. We're going to see some attackers. Maybe he can make those Tarmogoyfs a little bit bigger, find a way to get an enchantment or an artifact into the graveyard here. As you again see him taking his time figuring out what he does want to do this turn.
So, yeah, Sower Temptation, 2 Sowers of Temptation, and a Force of Will. I believe a Brainstorm as well. Does he want to go for the Brainstorm right here? What can he Brainstorm into that would be amazing?
I mean, another Force of Will for backup, maybe a Jace the Mind Sculptor to Fate Seal. That one's not so bad. I feel like those are maybe the best he can do. I feel like maybe Baleful Strix might be a little bit of insurance because both the guys have flying, Death Touch, something of that nature. And I think he's actually thinking about the same thing you said, is this Brainstorm worth casting because what can I find?
Yeah, so I like the Brainstorm here. Ooh.
Tarmogoyf, Shardless Agent, and a Tropical Island are what he does Brainstorm into.
So a little 2-for-1 action here. I like this. I maybe put the Tarmogoyf on top, Cascade into it.
One of the things he can do is actually just put 2 lands on top and Cascade past those lands and find something better.
Oh yeah,
which is kind of cool with the Agent.
Maybe put the Tarmogoyf on top of your library, then a land on top of that, Cascade into it. You still have Force of Will backup. maybe Gerry's just afraid because Gerry has a lot of permanence play. So even an Emrakul hit, he could be threatening lethal if he just gets another Tarmogoyf into play.
Okay, well, you're going to see Polluted Delta shuffle this stuff away here. So maybe he's just not interested in playing Shardless Agent at all this turn.
So 1, 2, 3. Their Tarmogoyfs are still at 3 power. Gerry has 5 lands in play, so he can sack 5 lands and a Shardless Agent in case a Emrakul comes over and annihilates things, and he'll still have 7. He'll have 8 power on board because the Shardless Agent will die, and that's an artifact.
So now we're going to see Gerry play a Solar Temptation. The reason you see that is because he wants a little protection in the air. He's basically cutting off the outs of Phillip in a unique way, as we're going to see Tarmogoyfs and a Shardless Agent coming across here. We saw the Baleful Strix win Gerry game 2 because it was just an in-the-air blocker. And he just wants to make sure he doesn't lose to anything unnecessarily, as Phillip is going to untap. He's going to draw. He draws a Pyroblast. And I believe we're going to see Gerry Thompson move on. And he does.
Wow.
Gerry Thompson does beat Phillip Lorren with Shardless Bug 3-1. He'll be moving on to our semifinals, where he will be going against the winner of Bronduan and Lundqvist. A heck of a tournament here by Lorren, the 1 seed throughout the course of the weekend, but not able to defeat Thompson and his Shardless Bug deck.
And